Hello and welcome to your first conversation class, lesson one, haven't we met before? Now, in today's lesson, we're going to learn how to start a conversation with someone that you're likely to have met before, but for some reason you forgot when and where you forgot that person and you want to start a conversation with, and also you will learn how to extend the conversation. That means how to make the conversation a little bit longer. Now, before we start, here we have some things to consider. People around the world greet each other in different ways. All right. Now, let's see here. Now, in Canada, people often greet each other with a handshake. Now, in Thailand, how do people greet each other? With a nod and what else? A nod with palms together. Palms together. Now, in France, 2 or 3 kisses on both cheeks. In China, we have a nod or slight bow. So the bow is when you lean forward with your back. The nod is when you lean forward with your head. All right. Let's move on to the passage here. Now I don't have the audio, so I will just read the this passage, and then we're going to have some keywords to have in mind. All right. So here we have 2 friends, or 2 people actually. They meet, Pete and Liz. Okay. Now I'm going to start reading this passage, and then we'll continue with the keywords and the explanation. This is a great film festival, isn't it? It sure is. This film looks wonderful. Yes, it does. Have you been to this film festival before? Yes, I was here last year. This is my first time, you know. You look familiar. Haven't we met before? I'm not sure. I think we were in the same computer class last year with Miss Clark. I remember you now. My name is Pete Wilson. I am Liz Wu. It's good to see you again. Sorry I didn't recognize you at first. Well, my hair was a lot longer then, and I wore glasses. Okay, now let's look at the keywords. Here we have some keywords. All right, I have written them in a note. All right, so here we have keywords. The first one is the film festival, which is a group of related films shown during a specific time period at a particular place. All right. Now, to look familiar means to seem that another person has seen or met you before. To look familiar. Okay. At first, when you say at first, that means in the beginning or in the start of something at first. Now, recognize means identify someone or something by looking at them. You can just recognize them, okay? Recognize them. Now, let's move on to the next page. All right, now here we have the conversation openings. Now, Pete said, this is a great film festival. This is a great film festival, isn't it? Now, he did not say, what's your name, or who are you, or what are you doing here, or I don't know you. He said, this is a great film festival. This is the opening scene for his conversation. This is how he starts his conversation to attract attention and to make other people or the other person engaging in the conversation. Okay. Now, sometimes in English, this is called small talk. This is how you draw attention of other people and make them engage in the conversation. Now, after he said, this is a great film festival, isn't it? Les said, it sure is. This film looks wonderful. Now, her reply or her response to his opening scene kind of scenario is still related to the films, okay, or to the film festival. She said, "This film looks wonderful." Okay, so they are still on the same topic. They are still on the same topic. She could have said, "Yes, it is. This film looks very interesting, doesn't it?" All right. So these are another optional responses. Okay. Now let's see here. We have a practice. Now, for example, imagine that you are at a dinner party or at a birthday party or any kind of concerts party, any kind of event, and you say it's a great party. The other person will actually respond to you by saying something that is relevant, something that's connected to the topic that you just mentioned. Okay, so it's a great party. The music is good. Now, one person might say, the food here looks delicious. The other person might say, the desserts are fantastic. So they are still connected. Their ideas are connected because they are talking about, let's say, the same topic or the same subject. All right. Now, let's move on. Here we have another practice. Now, here we have three pictures. They ask you to use these words to actually make a conversation in these situations. Okay. Now I picked one of these so to make it as an example. Okay. Now let's assume this one is called Jack and this one is called Sam. All right. We're going to use some of the words here they have given you. We have crowded, slow, exciting, fantastic, busy, late, delicious, and nice. All right. Now I have already made some notes. All right. So let me check here. All right. So let's assume the two men, Sam and Jack, they met at the stadium. All right, it could be a football stadium, baseball stadium, football stadium, soccer. Wait, I said football twice. So they meet, and one of them want to start a conversation. Let's say Jack, he wants to start a conversation with Sam. Okay, now, he might have seen Sam before, he may not have seen him, but let's see how Jack starts the conversation. What's the opening scene of his conversation? Now, Jack might say, "The stadium is very crowded, isn't it?" Now, here I tried to use some of the words, these words, I tried to use them in the conversation. Jack, he said, "The stadium is very crowded, isn't it?" Now, Sam, he might reply and say, "Yes, it surely is. It's very exciting as well. It is very exciting as well." Jack might say, "It really is. Have you been to a baseball game or baseball match before? Have you been to a baseball game before?" Sam might say, "Yes, I have been here several times or many times." Or he could say, "Well, not really. This is my first time and I think it's fantastic. Fantastic." Or "The game is fantastic. I think the game is fantastic." All right. And Jack, he might say, "It really is, but haven't we met before? I thought I have seen you here before." Or he could have just said, "I thought I have seen you here, or I have seen you around here before." Now, Sam, on the other hand, he might say, "No, we haven't met before. We haven't met before. Have we? Have we?" This is a common expression when someone asks you, "Have we met before?" You can say, "No, we haven't met before." Have we? Have we? That means, is that true? Did we really meet before? Okay. I'm not sure, but I do come to the coffee shop next to the stadium a lot. So you might have seen me passing by. Okay. Now, sometimes you can add something that is, let's say, it's like a note. Okay, it's like a notice to the other person. You can say, no, we haven't met before. Okay, but you can say, I do come, or I do walk by, or I do come around this area or this street quite often, you can say, or I pass by this street quite often. So in this scenario, I made Sam say, I am not sure, but I do come to the coffee shop next to the stadium. Okay, a lot. So you might have seen me passing by. Now, Jack, here he says, oh yes, now I remember. Now I remember. So that means this brings a bell. This brings a bell. Okay. Now, in English, when you say that something rings a bell, that rings a bell. Okay. If something rings a bell, that means it reminds you of something. Okay, it reminds you of something. So when I said, or when Sam said, I do come to the coffee shop next to the stadium, Jack, he remembered. What did he remember? He remembered that he had seen Sam before at the coffee shop. So he said, I saw you last week at the coffee shop when I was getting myself a cup of coffee. Okay, so this was the trigger, okay, the coffee shop coming up in the conversation. All right, now this is just an example. You can make any other examples looking at this picture of the woman in the supermarket, or these two ladies with the crowded, or with the traffic. So you can use any kind of sentences, just make a conversation out of it. Okay. Now, let's see. Here we have asking if you have met before. Asking if you have met before. Now, you can ask someone simply by saying, haven't we met before? Haven't we met before? I think we've met before, haven't we? Do I know you from somewhere? Do I know you from somewhere? You can simply respond and say, I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure. All right? Or I'm not really sure. Have we? Have we? Now, if I say, don't I know you from somewhere? You can say, do you? Do you? All right? You can simply say, I think we met at Sam's birthday party. Now, if you can remember a specific event or a specific time where you actually met that person, you can actually mention that time, so the other person might remember. Okay, so here in this scenario, you can say, I think we met at Sam's birthday party. Okay, the other person might respond and say, oh yes, I remember you now, because you have mentioned the birthday party. Now he remembers you. Weren't you at Sam's birthday party? This implies the same meaning. It's the same meaning. Weren't you? Okay, weren't you at Sam's birthday party? Yes, that's right. Yes, that's right. You were at Sam's party, weren't you? You were at Sam's party, weren't you? Now here we are using a question tag just to confirm the information. So if you don't know an information, or if you need a confirmation from someone, you can say the information or what you need to know, and then you can just say, weren't you, didn't you, isn't he, isn't she. These are question tags, so you can actually have a confirmation for that information you have. Now, you can say, no, I don't think so. I think you have the wrong person. I think you have the wrong person. Okay, this is quite a common expression when you say, I think you have the wrong person. That means you have confused me with someone else. Maybe there's someone else who looks like me, who have like the same maybe hair, the same height, the same, skin color, whatever. So you might have mixed them up and you think this person is the other person. My name is Pete Wilson. I'm with you. This is quite, now, once the person have recognized you, once the person have recognized you, you can actually tell your full name to the other person, like what happened with Pete and Liz. When she said, yes, I remember, he said, my name is Pete or Pete Wilson. Okay, now, right, so let's move on here to another practice. Okay, here we have another practice. Here we have some sentences that you can use. The first one is met at Kathy Chante's party, I think. Used to be neighbors, belong to the same gym, take the same train in the mornings. So these are just different situations. When you meet someone, you could have, maybe you can use some of these expressions. Okay, you can use one of these. Now, here I have made a scenario of my own. All right. Now, let's see here. All right. So here, for instance, here we have A and B. Okay. So we're going to have this scenario. Okay. So A might, these two people might bump into each other in the street or in a shop or whatever it is. Now, it says, she says, I think I have seen you before, but I just can't remember when. I think I have seen you before, but I just can't remember when. That means I cannot remember the exact time. Or she might say, you look so familiar to me. You look so familiar to me. I think I know you from somewhere. I think I know you from somewhere. That means I have seen you before, but I do not remember the place or the time. All right. Now, she could have also asked, I feel like I have seen you before. I feel like I have seen you before. Do you live nearby? That means, do you live around this neighborhood or do you live around this area? Now, he could have said, the boy here, he might say, well, not really, not really. I live near King's Road, near the gas station. Now, look what she says. Well, I used to live there. I used to live there. So we used to be neighbors. We used to be neighbors. That's how I know you. That's how I recognize you. All right. That's how you are familiar to me because I used to live there in the same street, on the same street or the same area where you are. And that's why you are familiar to me. This is how I know your face. Okay. Now, he could have said, yes, that's right. What a coincidence. Okay, what a coincidence. So he might say, yes, that's right. What a coincidence. I am sorry, I didn't recognize you at first. I am sorry, I didn't recognize you at first. That means in the beginning, at first. That means in the beginning when I saw you, I did not know you. I did not recognize your face. Okay, you were not familiar to me. So she says, it's okay. It has been a long time. It has been a long time. That means this happened a long time ago. Okay. And you can also change the scenario into something else. You can say, I think we met at Kathy's birthday party last week or last month. Okay. So it depends on the situation. All right. So we have this is an exercise as well, I believe. They're just asking you to write some sentences, okay, to talk about some places or events you have been to before. Okay, so it says here, I went to Sates High School. I stayed at the Raffles Hotel in Singapore last year. I studied in England for 1 year. Now you can just write any sentences of your own. Here I have wrote two sentences. For example, you can say I traveled to Rome last year and stayed in a cheap hotel, or I visited the Taj Mahal monument in 2015. It was stunning. Okay, so this is just uh, like any ideas you have, any places you have visited before, you can just write them down and that's it. Okay.